Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 68 of the Seercast. With me today is Geena.
Oh god, the right click spoilers.
Oh,
Muffled Geena.
she incredibly muffled.
Yeah.
That was odd.
Orange.
I'm too tired to think of a good intro, so hi.
Can I
Hi.
try again?
Lime.
I'm here too.
And we have a couple special guests. Mod Stu.
Hello, I'm Mod Stu, and I wish I killed Jonas.
And Mod Rowley.
Hi, I forgot we did intros, so I don't have one.
You don't need an intro. I don't have an intro either. And then we have Walter and Ballor in the chat. So today we are here to talk with the JMods about the recent quest release, Rivers of Blood. River of Blood? It's just one river.
Just river.
Just one river.
Yes.
So we're going to kind of pepper them with questions, and hopefully they'll not no comment us, and who knows? We'll see where this goes from here. I'm going to go ahead and just get... Huh?
It would have been cool in the quest if we had to dig out another river cell and then put a barrier behind that too.
Oh God. Oh no. I'm gonna go ahead and get started with a super serious question. What did poor Ella Maria do to you guys?
Can't be that bad, whatever it was, because she hasn't been killed off yet.
Yeah.
This is true.
She's just a good comedy character, I think.
I loved the casual shots that just kept getting taken at her.
An interesting dynamic between the two of them.
You know, to be honest, I was kind of hoping that Roll died in the middle of the quest, so that Ella Maria would become the Queen of Varrock.
Wait, so he's going to die in the middle of the quest when he's not even coming close to the front lines?
I mean, oh, go ahead.
No, how would you envisage that he died? Just tripped and fell?
Well,
Yes.
exactly like that.
He leaned too close to the broken railing where the Saradomin statue was, and he falls into the river.
Rip.
I actually imagined that he'd be out there on the bridge with us as like a diplomatic envoy. Well, that would have been a really stupid idea.
Yes.
Well,
Let's march the
considering
king out.
some characters here.
Yeah, that was always a tricky one, especially with the commissioned concept art for RuneFest.
Yeah,
It's
the concept art was.
It's very evidence that concept art you see at RuneFest is, that's very rarely the actual thing.
It looks good though.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Yeah.
Which actually brings me to another question. There were all sorts of like sixth age concerns, and with Chronicle, how Vanascula is still alive 30 years after the events of the game. How did you guys? Was that difficult during development to try and like you were kind of backed into a corner, or did you guys have it planned ahead anyways?
Back when we picked up 5, we were never planning to kill off Vanascula. She's too good a character, I think.
Yes, she
To
is.
just get away with, just kill her off so readily. Is Chronicle actually narratively in the 6th Age?
It's supposedly 30 years after the events of RuneScape.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know really. I mean, I don't think we'd ever let that stop us doing things with characters who feature in Chronicle. I'm pretty sure we're planning to do something to certain Chronicle characters at some point, but
Dun, dun, dun.
but then I see it's a separate game, and if its own core narrative diverges ever so slightly, I don't think that's a huge deal if it happens.
I know that in
Obviously,
Hearthstone.
we'd avoid that wherever we could.
Yeah, I know that in Hearthstone, at a certain point, they're just like, okay, so this is based on World of Warcraft lore, but we're going to totally break it for some of these things. Like the last set release, I mean, they've released Ragnaros the Light Lord, which is completely anti anything that is actually in World of Warcraft, but because of the way that the recent set went. So it's like you can kind of get away with stuff with in the card game, and then say that's their thing. That's not canon over here. I don't know if that's what you guys are planning on doing, but yeah.
Yeah, I doubt that thing's usually planned. It's not something purposeful. You just have to let the game be what it has to be for its own audience. So, yeah, gameplay first, I think, in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, wherever possible, we will try to keep parity.
But does it? Sorry. Does that hold true to characters that have 6th age lore but also 5th age purposes? Because I saw a lot of discussion about, Aonisig can't die because he has Battle of Lumbridge lore, or other characters can't die because they have a purpose in a 5th age quest or a 6th age purpose, or so on and so forth.
Well, in the case of Ionisig specifically, because River of Blood requires all of the rock quests, he didn't have any. You would have completed all of the content involving Ionisig by the time you reached this point, which I did deliberately to make sure that we had the opportunity to kill him.
Yeah, I think even then we were tripped up slightly because of the missing presumed death reference to the Zamarakian monks, who are now canonically dead. So there's always something that's going to trip you up.
Speaking of tripping, there are many good flights of stairs around Paterdomus now with the rework. My biggest regret for the quest is not being able to push Aonisig down those stairs. Once and for all.
Probably why he's stood on the base of them, just in case. Rather than
This is fair.
He's learned.
Yeah.
He has learned after many years of ruling Varrock.
When did you guys canonize the idea that Aonisig was literally useless?
Have we done that? Maybe it's my own personal bias against the character. I don't know.
That's fair.
Wait. You say personal bias. I don't think anyone likes that character.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's some sort of group consensus then. Yeah.
The entire fact that Aonisig is just constantly being hounded by everyone for being an awful person is excellent. It's like, everyone's like, why is this character here? What is he doing? And then apparently he keeps, I don't know if it's a bug or not, but he keeps the why are you even here dialogue option. Is that a bug?
What purpose do you serve?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
No, that's just a bit of filler in case, because you've got the little subquests to do, so that he's always got something to talk about. But I think it's good to always have that to remind people who've forgotten who he is, which is easy to do. Quite forgettable.
Just repress those memories.
Yeah. Yeah, I think either we had to make him incompetent or he had to be secretly evil. So I think that's probably where the incompetence comes from more.
Fair enough. What exactly was his
I'm
day
wondering.
job? Like, what is on his job requirement for Rold?
He is
before ambassador.
He is the advisor to the king on Ceradominist matters of the Ceradominist Church.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Okay. So basically, his lapdog.
Not necessarily. It's
Well,
more like the church's mouthpiece. He's there mostly to disagree with Rold.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
Yeah,
let's
make
talk
Rold
more-
look like the useless one.
Yeah. Let's talk more about the main part of the quest, the weird part. Yeah, the weird part of the quest.
Hallucinations?
Yeah, the hallucinations.
That
I
one.
really like that entire sequence. Did you guys, what part of the development process did that whole sequence come up in?
That was introduced quite late, as I recall. We were looking for more interesting mechanics to add to the Castle Dracan sequence, and it provided an opportunity to reflect on the tragedy of the past monarchy deaths and the guilt that plagues the player and things of that nature. So the opportunity to maybe see ghosts of your past and that kind of thing. of the form of monarchy was something that we toyed around with, and then the hallucinations provided a way for us to do that, and also just provide some very unexpected mechanics along the route of otherwise be a quite familiar looking environment.
Yeah,
like
I think
chairs hanging out on walls.
Ruby stuff.
once the kind of idea is cemented, I mean, we just went nuts with it. And we figured it was also a good way for answering a few questions rather than just dropping yet another book just full of words. So you can kind of confirm certain plot threads without actually being explicit about them.
Like
also,
the
just to be trippy.
like the stone being the way that Lord Loerniel opened the gates to Vampirium again. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part was interesting, to say the least. It was just walking through the rooms. Apparently there was a GE booth in there too. It just like what?
Yeah, there was.
I like to think that that's to reflect
I stopped by.
the players spent bank standing.
I mean,
a large part of the series, maybe. I don't know. I think we did consider actually making it a bank and having a banker there, as it was right before a boss fight. But I think ultimately we didn't really feel we needed to.
Yeah.
So there was a mechanical reason too. But I think we just came in one day and it was there, and it was like, okay.
It's there now. We're going with it. Yeah,
I mean, it would take a lot of work to take it out, so you might as well leave it.
Yeah, it's done now.
Yeah, with safe death, there's not really a need to have the bank there anyway. But I do want to say, before we go any further, the way this actually felt like a finale, in that you tied together, like, literally all of the quests before it, and, like, there's bits and pieces of every single one of them, and we're reflecting on the entire thing as we go through. And I loved that about it, because I loved this entire quest series. And to have us literally revisiting parts of the old quest is just brilliantly done. I loved it.
Obviously, the most important thing was Dealdor.
Well, for Lime.
Yes, that was the most important thing in the entire quest.
Yeah, we're surprised proportionally how many people were eager to find out about that particular feature when we put out the thread asking what players felt were the most prominent loose ends. So initially we weren't going to make it as prominent an element on the critical path, since obviously a lot of people were interested in it. We made it pretty central and made sure it clearly explained the vampirization process.
It was. Well, I mean, I think we made it feels to us like it was the right approach to take to the quest to answer all of those loose threads. But I think it's also one of the reasons why some players aren't enjoying it as much. I think
is because it's not asking as many questions going forward.
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, it's like maybe because it wasn't doing its own thing so much as it was clearing up the rest of the series. So there was no one standout moment, perhaps, for some people.
I could kind of get that vibe, but in another way, it was the story of Saflan becoming a weird that I felt was the real plot element that was woven through the entire quest, while it was also wrapping up the other parts of the storyline.
It was also
in that way, I guess. Yeah. Go ahead.
So it was also a good way of highlighting the fact that Saflan's character throughout the series is quite schizophrenic.
Yeah.
And he makes some really terrible decisions, so it was a good way to kind of focus on that and make that clearer, I think.
Yeah, you never really realize it as you're going through the early parts, but yeah, as it gets to 5 and 6, you're like, can we really trust this guy? Because he's doing like insane, making just insane decisions. Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Kind of things, and even just deciding to work with the Myrique in the first place is somewhat of a questionable decision. I mean, obviously it's great for story purposes, but like realistically, because he had no, if I remember right, he had no vested interest in all of this until he decided he had a vested interest in all of it. So
Even quite things
yes.
like mapping out the Castle Dracan. He just hands that task over to you and leaves you to get on with it. It doesn't seem like the most reliable leader.
yeah, yeah.
Actually, it
unreliable
seems like
is-
It seems like most leaders I've served under, so I was comfortable with it.
But yeah, so
Yeah, from the point of view of the rest of the monarchy, you have your leader who isn't really taking the advice of others, and then now, like later on, he suddenly says, "Oh, hey, we're teaming up with one of the high-ranking members of the Dracan family. Deal with it."
yeah, deal with
he
it.
makes it. And that turned out to be an extremely questionable decision.
Yeah. For
So,
likely personal reasons. But yeah, go on.
yeah. I guess in a way it was more that on your on your initial viewing of the series, you just go, "Okay, Southland, I'll do what you want," and just get on with it. But then you start getting into the deeper and deeper parts of the series, like Branches and Lord of Vampirium, and suddenly all of those decisions have a ton of consequences, like the death of the entire Myricky.
Yeah,
And-
like rushing right up to Lord Dracan and blowing the entire operation.
Yeah.
Kind of a critique on the kind of RPG trope of helping every stranger and the perils of doing so. Because
Yeah.
it kicked with Varnstrom in disguise, and it leads to all of this. So having questionable leaders, I think, is kind of one of the main narrative thrusts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty. I can see that being pretty strong throughout all of this. I mean, even with Veliath after Lord of Vampirium, where he just kind of goes nuts and it's like, well, we're done. This is it. It's over. And it's like, wait, what? You're just giving up now? Okay. What? But yeah, I mean, I like how it kind of it still continues forward, even so the Myricky series goes forward without the Myrick. It's like it's an interesting dynamic. I mean, it turns into basically the Vire series as time passes. Yeah. But yeah. Okay.
Can we take a moment to talk about the combat?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because Runic would murder me if I didn't talk about the combat. Well, yeah, actually, he would murder me with his Mad EOC skills. So there were several combat mechanics in the weird fight, such as I don't know where Runic is. Such as like the Sonic Blast and the Blood Bombs that we've seen so many times over the course of the series. But overall, it seemed really simplistic of a boss. Like the solution to a Sonic Blast or Blood Bomb was just to run away.
Yeah.
Was this deliberate to make the bosses just simple to be able to run through? Because I was nearly able to get through the entire quest without eating any food, and the only reason I couldn't was because I was just stupid with how I ran away.
So there are 2 points there. First of all, we feel that the difficulty is currently undertuned, particularly where it comes to life points. It's rather too short a fight, and you don't get to experience the mechanics for very long. So we are looking to make some statistical adjustments to try and make it a little more difficult. But overall, it's, I think, a product of it being the culmination of the full series, in which the earlier Titan quests were a lot more about exploring Mauritania and discovering old
Right.
secrets and figuring out yourself.
Yeah, because
And-
they didn't have any boss fights.
Yeah,
in those
exactly.
ones.
It wasn't a prominent part of the series. And then you have the route that Anna took with this building up to this big boss battle, and then we had a culmination of that in Lord of Vampirium, which was really pushing what we could do boss fight wise. And because we're trying to target both of those styles and bring it to a conclusion that felt like a fitting end to the series, trying to outdo the Lord of Dracan battle kind of meant we'd have to put so much resources into achieving that we would underplay the Titan elements.
Yeah.
So it seemed like better to go for something that, because it's not really a key part of the series. Underplay it a little bit.
The role of the combat in this particular one was entirely intended to be thematic, and
like how in the hallucination, you have like a flashback back to the Vanstrom fight and the Lord Drakon fight.
Yeah, it was all those.
And
and also because we felt that that kind of boss progression, one-upmanship, it's just it can get out of hand in some ways. And I think Stu's right. We pitched it just a little bit too low in terms of challenge, but mechanically speaking, it was always intended to be quite simple. Yeah.
Yeah, we've complained here quite a bit about bosses getting too needlessly long and complex, and I think we actually had issues with this with the Drakon fight.
I specifically talked about that, and I think it was during the Elegy podcast.
That one too, yeah.
It was just insane about how you just keep getting more and more stages, and suddenly you have a boss with like 17 stages, and you can't know all of the mechanics, and
because each stage is too short to actually learn one, and you just kind of DPS your way through it, and then you get to the next one, then you die, and you're like, oh, I guess I died to that. Then you go try it again, and then you just DPS your way. Yeah, I can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I prefer simplicity to just needlessly complex.
Yeah, there's probably another string to that in that we've got kind of an awareness of everything that the studio is working on, and we know that, say, The Watch, they've just done God Wars 2. They're working on other PVM content for the rest of the year, so we're wanting to do our own thing, and we're wanting as a team to have our own identity as well. And we don't want to do too much of that. I mean, we kind of already see from the player base that PVM updates and Slayer updates and all of this, it's played its hand a bit, quite a lot lately.
Yeah, there's starting to be some fatigue that you can see. Yeah.
And so, I mean, again, it's one of the reasons, say, for the Ark, aside from the Slayer update that we've had voted on, I think we're mostly avoiding any kind of PVM updates. We're keeping it quite focused on skills.
Well, great. Now I can't tease Avernick anymore about how his islands are being Slayer Islands and make him upset.
There'll be some combat because thematically you're in a wilderness, effectively. Sorry, not the wilderness. Just like uncharted lands.
A wilderness.
Yeah.
Violent people.
A foreign place. With people who will steal stuff from you at any chance they get.
Wilderness 2, confirmed. Yeah, thanks for stopping that. Really, thanks for stopping that from happening. But yeah, I do like about the combat in this last quest is just, again, like I mentioned earlier, how it kind of brings in parts of the previous boss fights. Where so you're killing the Word, and then suddenly, hey, you have part of the Vanstrom fight, and then it comes back, then the Word comes back, and then you have part of the Drakon fight, and so that it just brings the entire series together in a great way, combat wise.
Yeah, it really feels like a final boss fight, not because it's the hardest thing you've ever faced, but because it's drawing all the previous elements together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as a whole, we're aiming for the quest to be reflective and considering the quests that have brought up to this point and the memories and the issues you've dealt with, and trying to bring that to a conclusion.
Not enough gather hammers. That thing. I mean, using a band hammer is nice and all, but still.
Attach the gather hammer to the sun sphere.
That's invention.
Oh God!
The ultimate Myricky weapon.
Just imagining the model of that. It'd be the most ridiculous looking thing ever.
Well, it reflects the series because the first few quests were all about just adding one thing onto the weapon you've been creating the entire time.
This is true.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel about the flailed. Like, you need all these scythes and exotic sickles. I don't remember what they're called.
Maybe the augmented sun spear is supposed to look like a sun spear with a gather hammer attached. Maybe that's actually supposed to be a thing.
Yeah, maybe we should have used the Getter hammer as the shaft of the spear.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been blisterwood then.
So
But,
true, it wouldn't have worked.
yeah. Sorry, I'll be sensible. No,
Yeah,
take
sorry,
that back.
sorry, my fault.
You take your logic, you get out of here.
We considered at one point including Getter ranks as one of the steps in the boss fight, but
Oh, God, his death and him though.
yeah, but it seems to make more sense to focus on the vampiric opponents, and have that as a central core of
Yeah.
the progression through that fight.
Yeah, he should have shown up as a hallucination maybe though. Mm-hmm.
Speaking
Maybe-
of the hallucinations, what
Replace-
were we actually killing when we were killing random things in there? Are
Rain-
we
I
killing,
don't-
are we killing air?
Uh,
Are we getting no? Am I getting no commented?
no, well, no. I mean,
Okay.
there isn't anything. You're fighting the poison, so it's just all metaphorical.
All right,
I
fair
did
enough.
see a nice suggestion that you'd kind of come out of the fugue state and all of the people that you freed in the refinery are around your feet, dead and bloodied.
That'd be
That's a
terrible.
very Shiraki option.
Oh, Shiraki would have.
Yeah.
There's also a really great theory that the player is still hallucinating, and that
Yeah.
the entire sixth age.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yes.
I've seen that.
Best theory ever.
Yeah, this is Swords of the Sixth Age, the poison.
I'm quite happy that helps some people's headcanons to Sixth Age. So that's quite cool too.
Yeah, that's that. God, we already mentioned it, but that entire sequence is just. It's trippy. I mean, that's obviously the intent, but it is super trippy. So let's move on. Oh, Lime.
Let's talk about Ivandis and how he makes a great return in this quest after being absent for about like 2 quests
And then dies.
since Legacy.
Oh yeah. I only found out yesterday that he even had a thing going. Because that whole is there actually a hidden story at the top of Paradise?
Kind
Yeah,
of.
Oh, sorry, carry on.
Go ahead.
I
Jay-
was.
Jay-
Yeah, well, it is.
Oh.
It's not hidden. I mean, it is. It's not.
Oh yeah, because someone was telling me that you had to keep going back up there and examining it, and it said was there really?
Yeah, there
I
was.
don't know because I completely missed anything of the sort.
Yeah,
Well-
there was a progression. So if
Yeah.
you go back, I think there's 3 different states that the coffin can be in
Mm-hmm.
before you put the first potion in, and then after each of the potions, it changes.
Yeah, I mean, Walter was yelling at me to do it while I was streaming yesterday, so all of the stages are in my video. That is now up on my YouTube channel. Yeah. But yeah, so it's first stage is that it's shaking. It like it wants to get out. Then after you add the potion, actually, it's technically after you talk to Aeonisig after you add the potion. Then it's like really, really shaking, wants to get out, and then after the quest is over, it's dead. Rip.
Yeah, it just stops shuddering, and the implication is that that's actually a vampiric Ivandis
Mm-hmm.
Who locked himself away so that he could prevent from giving into the thirst or the hunger.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know why I thought this, but in the middle of the quest, I thought that it all makes sense now. Ivandis is Vanstrom actually, and we killed him.
No, that would be Acertes.
Yeah, I was kind of. I had no idea what I was doing in the middle of the quest.
That is true.
Yeah, I think part of that is like we had this general feeling of wanting to return to the beginning again, because we were coming back to Paterdomus.
Mhm.
This thing all kicked off with Rold and then Drezel, and Ivan obviously as well. He featured quite early on, so it's kind of closing the loop as well.
Yeah,
Narratively speaking.
and this is
Yeah,
all
was it-
about what happened to Mauritania after the battle at Paterdomus, but way back in the Fourth Age.
And we couldn't help but get another dig in at Saradomin, right?
There's
I know
always room
Lime
for that.
loves. I know Lime loves who digs at Saradomin.
Although, just
Actually,
on,
I'm okay with them.
Okay,
on
you're
that
okay
point,
with
it was a very something that we wanted to be very careful about, not adding more negativity to Saradomin directly. So it's very much a Temple Knights thing in his name.
Mhm.
So it's worth making that clear.
It was very abundantly clear that this was a Temple Knights thing, and it was done, in Saradomin's name, as opposed to Saradomin came down and did this and is a terrible person or something along those lines.
Okay, I mean, there was a lot of dialogue from that guy who is dead about Saradomin will come down and solve everything. And everyone's like, don't be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Drezzel's not the 6th age yet.
Yeah.
Can't say that.
It is interesting,
Yet,
though, at
He's not ever.
playing through this quest, considering it's a 5th age quest, after the events of the 6th age, where the gods have come down and there's been this big battle between Zamorak and Saradomin, and there have been several quests where Saradomin himself has shown up, and it's just like, playing through this quest, which happened before all of that, is really interesting, just in that regard.
Yeah. I should think of something more to say than just yeah. But
Yeah.
I guess in a way, the first part of the quest series, from In Search to Legacy, it was all considering the gods that were all kind of metaphysical deities that they weren't on this realm of existence or something like that. It was all really vague back then because God knows what was going on. How much did that impact how you told the story? Was it more, well, I guess it didn't really impact that much? It's kind of a non-question.
Not sure what you're trying to ask.
What I'm more asking is that there's a lot of religious in the context of there being various gods in RuneScape. There's a lot more of godly influence in quests now than there were way before. Did that have any impact on how you developed this quest or designed it?
I don't think so, no. I think potentially we... hang on, form my thoughts. Maybe there was a conscious decision to distance ourselves from it because we know that the Sixth Age is so heavily focused on the gods. So, I mean, even mentioning Zaros and Zamorak, I don't know, some people have issue with that being by name, but even mentioning them at all was kind of, should we really do this? Because as well, the whole of Vampire Society is effectively secular at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're only Zamorakian in name, and I had an argument with someone if they ever even consider themselves Zamorakian at all.
Like, is Zamorakian in name? Are they Zamorakian at all? They share his tenets just by nature of their society, and I have a question about that I want to ask.
They don't even share his
just a minute.
They seem more of a Saradominist style, just because of all the bureaucracy and so forth.
Actually.
Saradomin got a bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well,
I'd say they lean more towards, they're polytheistic now, maybe, as a society, in their beliefs. There's something we tried to capture with the kind of journals of Evandis, how he started out staunchly Saradominist, and then he kind of turned towards the kind of darker urges of vampirism. And then that was the introduction of the character of Yara to give him some balance and that kind of Cathixian outlook.
Yeah.
I think he was kind of a microcosm for kind of the story of the entire region and all of the people that live there.
Did they ever say in that? Did that journal ever actually say that he was? So I know that it said that he's turning away from the light, from Saradomin. It never actually said he was going specifically towards Zamorak, was he?
Not specifically, no. Just tonally in terms of theme, he's having the sorts of thoughts that somebody who follows Zamorak might have.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. So along those lines, and this is actually something that Walter wrote in the thread, is there because the Vire's bloodlust is something that you see a lot of in this quest. It is very, very similar to the Dragonkin's itch. So the itch for the stone, itch for power, whatever you want to call it. Are they related, or is it just kind of they're coincidentally similar?
Adding on to that, Walter also said in the thread that it could have something to do with Dayalt being the result of the Stone of Jas. So this is part of the Walter conspiracy theory of between the vampires and the Dragonkin.
And before comment.
That's an interesting theory.
Given that pureborns are also subject to bloodlust, though, I'd imagine probably not directly related.
Not strictly, but then I kind of see that working in that, like, your dealings with Vanaskula and Drakan as kind of, well, as much of a cruel person as Drakan himself was, they were both quite refined and restrained, and you could reason with them and you could talk to them, whereas most of the other vampires that you face, or the Firewatch, they're pretty much single-minded.
Yeah, they've been overcome by the bloodlust, similar to the way that some of the Dragonkin have been consumed.
So that connection with the Stone of Jas and the lust for power as well, that's quite a strong connection. I like that. It's not something that's canonically put in the game, but yeah.
So it's a cool coincidental connection?
Yeah, I mean, it's something we could maybe plan on in the future as well.
Interesting.
I think.
Next Dragonkin quest suddenly turns into a Mortania quest.
I mean, it would be fitting because every other quest seems to turn into a Dragonkin quest. So
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Carapac didn't show up and stab someone in this one. So
Just thinking ahead as well, it does also sort of tie into the kind of ideas we have for the planet of Vampirium, in that it's something we envisage as being quite abundant of life. So it's not like it's being completely ravaged and drained of blood.
yeah.
And
it's
the kind of tribes there would be receptive, or some of them would be at least receptive to outsiders. Wouldn't just eat you.
Mhm. And that'd be a first for all of the different worlds we visited so far.
Yeah. Either everything there is completely insane or it wants to kill you. And there's like no in between. I guess with the exception of Mazcab, but that hardly counts.
Gobies have a secret heart of darkness.
Okay, this is fair. I can believe it. Damn lunch. All right, anyways, but so along that note, you might not be able to say anything, or maybe there just isn't anything. So, are there plans to actually explore Vampirium in the future?
I don't want to go down the rite of passage route.
This is fair.
Talk up. I mean, we've got some formative plans. We've got a formative design. We've made a start on some small parts of it, and there's a desire in the team to actually make the project that we've envisaged. Mm-hmm. But whether or not we ever go is something that's probably out of our hands.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. The thing about Rite of Passage and Abina is that there's nothing in-game existing that actually links anything to Abina, whereas with Vampirium, there's this entire quest series.
I think
there was that.
Not point to it.
It does. Wait, doesn't it?
Wait,
forget.
I'll double check right now.
What does what?
If the World Gate has something referencing
it
does.
It does. But
and
it also
there was
has
that slight mention of it.
But it also references every other plane that we know about. So that I mean, other than that, there isn't anything. What I mean is, there's no major story in game that points directly towards Abina. It's mentioned briefly in a couple quests, but that's about it. It's just the Aviancy homeworld that Mod Raven at one point did a podcast about that was probably not the
And
smartest
it has
idea.
And it has spiraled out of control ever since.
Bird brains.
Yeah.
But I feel like if the players, especially if something gets pulled soon, like I would expect that the players respond much more favorably towards Vampirium than anything else. But I mean, again, it isn't in your hands. It probably isn't in our hands either. But yeah, that would be very cool, and maybe we'll see something more about that. I don't want to overhype it. I don't want to be like, oh my god, yes, it's happening, because we've learned from Rite of Passage that stuff is very fluid, and yeah, it sounds cool, but there's also other stuff that sounds cool, and you can't make everything.
Yeah, and there's the argument to be made that, Mauritania vampires, they've had their time for now, and let's just rest on that front for a little bit.
That is also fair. So I want to talk a little bit about Him Alchemy. First things first, what was the first book supposed to have in it if you got the book into the quest? If that Blood Altar puzzle that you'd mentioned at some point made it into the quest, or can you not tell me because that's a Gaul hunt?
Well, in terms of the blood puzzle bit, that was just an additional obstacle to getting the Blood of the Hybrid book. So you'd have to simply translate it first. So that's not really anything more information about Him Alchemy than you already received.
Okay.
It was just some additional gameplay.
Yeah, I think it would have. We dismissed it because it felt like it was just trying to shoehorn in the altar just to have a quest requirement, and it didn't fit the flow that we were going for.
All right, fair enough. So then we were never technically supposed to read the first Him Alchemy book?
I guess that's a different question.
It's hard to know what would have been in it. I think the first Him Alchemy book is probably Mauritius's transcribing and laboratory notes of Evandis' own journal and his findings with Yara. So it's something you learn, but via a different route.
Okay.
And as such, it's a lot of medical equations and strange scribblings and encoded messages that Mauritius tended to like to do, and as a result, you can't translate it even now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whereas his second journal is intended to be read by anybody, understood by anybody, because I suppose he was quite desperate at that point.
Yeah.
He had to get this information out to somebody somehow.
Yeah, so he wrote it down, left it, and was like, oh god, I hope. So how much... Well, go on.
He also wouldn't have wanted the secrets of vampirization to be fully understood. So kind of encoding it in some way is probably something he's done to keep it hidden.
Yeah. So he extended his life. How much did he extend his life by? And or is he still alive?
That's not something we've considered. I mean, my personal opinion is that the Mareki series as a whole probably had a few too many characters. In part, that was a good excuse for why we killed a few of them off.
Fair enough.
And what that kind of led to is that quite a fair number of them were underdeveloped.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't time to focus on them and give them real character arcs and personalities. So I wouldn't have envisaged him ever appearing in this quest series.
Their names also had a few too many characters.
A few too many vowels or something. So yeah, I mean, there's potential for him to come back in the future. But I don't know. We also do a lot of that where, this character's dead. No, they're not.
JK. Yeah.
So from that standpoint, I think he lived long enough to achieve what he needed to achieve for the impact that he had on this series, and that's enough.
Fair enough.
But we could always change our minds later. That's the great thing about it.
So he could just be like reclining in a beach house now, just like sipping on a martini or something.
So literally the human version of Hazelmere?
Yeah, he got his happy ending.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
Yeah, sure, we'll go with it.
It's the final liberation from Mauritania.
Yeah.
He's free now.
Yeah.
Freedom. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions about Him Alchemy before I move on? And anyone? Lime?
No, I think we're good. I will say though that I read the description of which one was it? The Aegis blood essence, and now I think about it, that would really hurt if it was like the actual way that blood worked.
Well, if you saw the bug reports, it initially did really hurt.
How was it broken? I'm curious.
It was adding damage rather than subtracting it, I
Oh
think.
god.
Oh, okay.
Well, of course, Vanessa recommends that one or something.
Of course she does.
You did say it was your funeral, so spot on.
No, she didn't recommend it to me though. She was like, "Nah, I wouldn't have done that, but it's your life."
Yeah. Reverse psychology.
Yeah. Okay. So this goes back to Anna's quest, and this question has probably been asked 100 times. I'm probably going to get no commented. Actually, probably not at this point. But why did Vanstrom explode instead of doing normal fire things when he died?
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure myself. I like to think of it as just a final explanation of energy, kind of like the player can do with certain prayers, as a final, all right, I'm going to take you with me.
So like channeling a blood geyser into himself and then causing that to explode.
Yeah.
As a final act of retribution.
Yeah, sort of, I can't think of the word, like just out of spite. I don't think there's any particular magical reason why some...
Like a last hurrah or something.
Yeah, I don't think there's any kind of, he was a special type of vampire, and so therefore he would explode.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we know at this point that he was what's his name, Acertes. So it wouldn't have
Acertes.
anything necessarily to do with that, just because Acertes was a king when he was turned.
Yeah, you would have been, yeah.
Yeah. So even that. So yeah. Okay. Fair enough. All right. One comment, off-topic comment. And this goes back to the fact that you tied in stuff from the other quests. I love that front and center in the army screenshot. There's the werewolf with the collar of shame. I loved it.
Yeah, a lot of people pointed out Shamey. He did quite well.
Shamey?
Shamey, yeah.
He's got a name.
Oh, Seamus. Sorry, get it right.
Seamus.
No, that's not very as a name for a werewolf. They're all based on
Slavic.
Yeah,
It's
that's
Slavic, isn't it?
Slavic names. So yeah, I don't know. It's like not everybody would have seen him in the previous quest, and we liked him so much that he had to feature.
That was fantastic. I loved it.
We also wanted some visual variety, so it wasn't just all using the same werewolf model. So you've got that one in the front that's fully armored.
Yeah. And then the actual cardboard cutouts of Vyers back behind.
Yeah, they're using the Home Alone defense. It seems like they've got numbers.
They do have numbers. Whether the numbers can do anything or not, that's up for debate.
That was unfortunate. I mean, it's a cheeky little trick that's used in any number of industries.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that explains how all the people were able to walk back out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to ask that. What were the Bergderot villagers thinking on their way home? Just like casually walking through the army. It's like, nothing to see here. We're just going home.
Can't comment on that one.
Well,
There
off the
it is.
conversion at that point. They just want to go home, so I guess ideally we would have had them shambling a bit more and missing a little more. But
Yeah, or maybe running for cover
Yeah.
somewhere else that's not towards a giant army of vampires.
Yeah.
I was picked up on time at that point.
Yeah,
so
Just
trying to
like
get it
they,
done.
just
One
like,
of those things you wish you had just that extra 10 minutes or so to change slightly.
yeah. Because
Yeah.
they just poof, they're back to human, and then they just walk straight towards the virus that they were. It's like, okay.
Excuse
True,
me.
they haven't arrived back home yet as well, so maybe they didn't do too well.
Excuse me, pardon
Yeah.
me. Yeah, I mean that's like a completely like irrelevant, jokey kind of thing, but I just found that amusing. It
Yeah.
has
It's the sort of thing that on a second pass we would like to
Yeah.
improve if we could. It's the same as like how the player stands there stoically while the well in Pesidomus explodes when there's this shower of particles and water, just completely
Yeah.
non-fake. Some kind of reaction animation would be good if we had the time to give it just a little bit additional polish. But no project is ever finished. It's just released. You know how it is.
Yep.
Indeed.
There's always more that we could do if we had more time.
Yeah, it's not a case of, oh, we didn't have enough time so much as there's never enough time.
Yeah, I mean,
Always.
if there's one thing I've learned from doing these podcasts is that there is just never enough time. It's like there's always something that could be done. There's always somebody that says there should have been X, Y. There should have been X. There should have been Y. There should have been X and Y. There should have been everything. Why didn't you include every single character from every single? It's just like Jesus Christ, guys. They only have so much time.
Yeah, we particularly get that with post-quest dialogue. There's always one character we missed that someone feels it's integral for them to respond.
I loved that there was a lot of post-quest dialogue for this one. Though.
Yeah,
Like, all
that
the
was
major
Yeah.
characters
Yeah.
had it, and it's better than some other quests that have been recently released that have had none. And it's just like...
It's always difficult. You have to spend so much of your focus on the actual quest.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. You just have to find time for it, and we did on this one. We found the time. That's all. This is the only difference. And even then, we missed a few. So, for instance, if you talk to the cats in Mayaditch, who'd have thought cats, right?
Yeah.
They still
Yeah.
complain about vampires, and they've gone. So I fixed that.
Maybe
one,
they
yeah.
just don't. Maybe they just don't like the smell.
Yeah, he actually has a line of dialogue about the cat says, "Oh, sorry about the smell, but these stinking buyers." And now the buyers have gone. He's like, "Sorry about the smell. Oh, actually, wait, it is me." That cat's still not very happy.
Rip cat. Yeah, that is like a completely
So-
random post-quest dialogue
Yeah.
character.
People always find like some extra thing that, like the cats or something like that.
That you wouldn't
There
even
was-
think of when
Yeah.
developing the quest. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is. In a game that is as far-reaching as RuneScape is, it's got to be impossible to even think of every character that could have post-quest dialogue, let alone then write the dialogue and put it in game.
It's. I think it's become a bit of a slogan here. It's like, what does Azanadra?
Oh. Okay, it's
Might get on
not
a
just
t-shirt.
me.
To be fair, Azanadra might have some feelings about hearing about Drakan's death, and Zaros might care about a new human vampire society, but yeah, they can't be exhaustive about every single topic,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean those are obviously not the first characters I'd go to after this quest, and they
Yeah.
weren't. Actually, the first character I went to was the barkeeper in Canifis because apparently he had new dialogue. I was like, huh,
Oh,
really?
really?
Okay. So
I know the first character I went to was Velia because I thought he'd like to know some stuff, and then he actually did something.
yeah.
What I did was I actually ran back to Ivandis's tomb and I looked so I could try and find more serum, and I was like, yes, there's more. And I tried to make another potion, like an extreme Guthix balance potion, to use on the ancient Vire at the top of Paterdomus, and then got disappointed that it died.
Rip.
Sad.
Yeah, but Yeah, so I mean, it is. I mean, it's just development issues, right? I mean, it's you just can't hit everything, and somebody's going to find something to complain about because they can, and then they're going to go on Twitter about it and complain. I mean, that's how it works, right?
Because
Yeah,
that's
and-
the easiest option.
Although in principle text should be cheap because we can just write stuff. Any text we rewrite creates work for the translation team to convert into other languages, and they were already quite strict by the amount of text we put in the game with all those
You can say
books.
it. They were already very upset with me.
Yeah. But how did that compare to? Was it Mod Jack that put? God, how many pages did he say? It was thousands upon thousands of words with the. I think it was the.
Majrat Memories?
Yes, those. Like, I think Jack came into the clan chat and was like, the translators really hate me right now because I've given them like 4,000 words to translate.
No time to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, they do get put upon quite a lot because they are at the very end of the development process, and they tend to be overlooked. So it's something we're always trying to improve.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. All right, let's see. Here.
Can I talk very briefly about the ending of the quest?
Yeah, go.
Please do.
All right, so I know a lot of people are a little bit upset about how the quest ended. Like, it was kind of... It didn't feel like it was actually over because the armies just kind of went, okay, there's going to be no war, we're going to walk away now, nothing happens. And
Nothing interesting happens.
yeah, nothing interesting happens, and Vaniscula just goes, all right, I give up, you guys win, you get your truce, without actually doing anything. And do you guys have any comment about that? Because I've also seen the argument that that's the only way it could have ended, with because everyone was against the war, even Vaniscula. Do you guys have any comment about that?
It was always going to be a tricky thing, I think. Even without the marketing, I think there was an expectation for All Out War, even before we showed that concept art at RuneFest.
Yeah, there was always that expectation that at the end of The Lord of Vampirium, there would be some kind of invasion against Misthalin.
Let's be fair. The RuneScape populace is significantly more bloodthirsty than any buyer, so...
And from the standpoint of the Splitter group, that was exactly what they were trying to achieve too. That's a vast conflict
Yeah.
that would.
I think in hindsight we could have done more to earn it. Like we could have had a little bit more skirmishing going on. We could have had, rather than a perpetual state of standoff, it could have been testing defenses and things like that. It's a really tricky one to try to sell, to be honest.
But yeah, if you do that, then you take away from some of the story elements and
Yeah.
There's more of a technical issue, but kind of the geography of that area doesn't really lend itself to a full-scale fight.
No.
And it would all have
Yeah, it's kind of... It's a real choke point.
Yeah.
It's effective defense, certainly, but yeah, it's not great for setting full-scale battles at.
Hence the cardboard
think-
cutouts.
Did we have catapults up the top as well?
We did at one point.
We
Yeah.
did. Oh, we took them out. Okay, right.
I think
So-
the Varrock
Yeah.
still had catapults.
Yeah.
The rock guard could have been flinging stones at the cardboard cutouts. Like it's up to-
You just see one of them fall over. You're like,
Okay,
Of course, that's hard to do if
We
they.
always knew that it was going to be a divisive response to that kind of ending. But I think we hit the nail on the head for the kind of target audience in aiming to wrap up the series in a way that was congruent with the series,
Yeah.
in spite of the kind of expectations of full-scale war.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's a really
Yeah.
difficult work, I think.
Yeah, I do.
and I guess,
Go on.
well, I guess it sort of adds to Vanesco's character that she didn't continue to press on and invade anyway.
Mhm.
That she had the sense to, step back when she knew that she was beaten.
Yep.
Yeah, like she wasn't.
As soon as she got there, then she'd have got what she wanted. But she didn't. She cared too much, maybe.
If it was Lord Draken at the head of that army, it would have ended very differently.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah, no kidding. I do have a question quickly about those that army standoff scenes with regards to NXT. Did you know that NXT was going to be released right before your quest as you were developing this kind of scene? Because it looks unbelievable in NXT, and I can only imagine that it doesn't have anywhere near that kind of impact without in the old Java client.
I don't recall exactly when we knew when it was going to be, and even when we'd been told it wasn't set in stone, it was still had the possibility to shift.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up to go whether or not NXT would be first or we would be. But as soon as we found out, I think it was a good couple of months before release of the quest that we knew,
Mm-hmm.
or we kind of knew. And it's just because Mod Joe's our product owner, and he's an ex-environment artist, and so he has that kind of drive to push for graphical one-upmanship and fidelity. And as soon as NXT was on the table, he was like, "Yep, we're doing something here."
Yeah, I
have the showpiece. But on the other hand, we also still need to maintain support for Java and have decent frame rates and minimum spec on Java. So
Oh, yeah.
the trying to
A lot
push
back
the,
and forth.
push the graphical fidelity while also being efficient enough to manage on the old client. I mean, that's the reason why we have things like the cardboard cutouts, just to, and a lot of the army were low poly versions. Just we did a lot of optimization on that scene to try and make sure that it was still playable. Unfortunately, that vast open scale conflicts aren't very practical in a scene with that much scenery
Mm-hmm.
at present. Hopefully, in the long term, if we can manage to move away from the Java client, that kind of thing might be more viable.
Yeah, it's kind of a look to the future more. So it's maybe a promise that we can deliver on in a future update when NXT is the primary engine.
Yeah, I will say, playing through it in NXT, it looked fantastic, and
Yes.
I mean, the scale of it was like, even if I was like, after a few seconds, I'm like, a lot of those are just like cardboard cutouts. It's like, it's still like, this is two very large, imposing armies all opposing each other, and like, it was a cool effect. It was a fantastic effect, and it is interesting.
It was a fantastic. Yeah. It was a fantastic scene altogether because
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You really got to overlook Mauritania, and throughout the quest you can always see like the Paterdomus Temple and Vigara's Fortress just like hanging over Mauritania as you're running around it, and I think NXT really did the quest justice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to add on to that,
Especially because the quest is kind of, I mean, even though you've already explored everything, the quest is exploratory in its nature just because that's the way Titan did it, and that's what it sounds like you were going for. And so you're going from place to place, and you're still, and in NXT you can see that it's just like, it just adds so much.
Yeah, even those areas that we didn't have a chance to graphically update, they still look a hell of a lot better in NXT with the self-shadowing and the like.
Except
Oh, yeah.
for the nature. So, Mod Alex is still saw that we didn't give him time to do that.
Yeah, he was really keen for us to cut that section from the quest because it just looked so painful to him.
Which section was this?
The nature spirit grotto.
Oh, that one.
Oh.
But I wanted to make sure we went back there, returning to the nature spirit quest and going back to your roots and tied in with the Baxter story as well.
Yeah, it kind of feels like you're following in their footsteps.
Yeah.
An opportunity to go back through the swamp, deal with guests, blessing like you did with Silver Sickles. It's all going back to your roots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the Nature's Grotto has better graphics than Karamja, so we're still fine.
I remember the first thing that Orange said to me when he logged into NXT was, "Wow, even Karamja looks better."
As we're on the topic as well, if I'd have realised, I completely derped in including holy water, so I effectively did send people back to Karamja as well if they didn't have any.
Rip.
For the memorial, this was.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's great that you included Holy Water there because it was the most difficult mechanic and the last one when you do Cephalan.
Yeah.
So it's something you're gradually building up to.
Yeah, that's actually another good point. Is that was one of the primary drives for both the plushie hunt and for the memorial, is that we had this vast swathe of content that you can do in Mauritania, and we've taken maybe about a quarter of it for the quest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So why not put the rest of it in those other 2 updates, and we'll get people exploring again and remind people of this whole series.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, we're about out of time. So, and yeah, I know that you guys want to get back to work. I do have one more troll question before we go on. It goes back to Aonisig. So, why did Aonisig give you a rune crafting lamp, considering he's basically Meg?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. When did he give you a lamp?
He didn't. That's my point.
I see. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Opportunity.
We're going to have to tell the ninjas to do something with Mega May and Mod Stew's
Oh,
account.
definitely. Yeah. I'm not going to get any soft puppets or soft raft or anything. It's just going to be room crafting lamps.
Just nothing but rune crafting lamps, just for mods too.
Yeah, one of the mini quests for the day should be you go up to someone and at the request of someone else, you just keep giving them rune crafting lamps over and over again.
After
Until they
certain
crack.
points, like, God, stop it. But yeah, troll questions aside, thank you very much to Stu and Rowley for coming on. As always, we love talking with you guys, and we love hearing your insight into making the content that we enjoy. So
Yeah, and why certain things are like how they. Yeah.
yeah. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will probably be doing another Seercast in maybe this weekend, probably not this weekend, maybe the following weekend or something, for when we talk about May. Kind of depends on what's on the May BTS. But anyways, go follow us on Twitter at Seercast. Follow our blog is seercast.wordpress.com. You can follow each of us individually. There's going to be a master Seercast link on to our Twitters. Comment in the video if you have anything to say to us, or send us something on Twitter. Big announcement coming out for us that should have happened a long time ago is we are finally going to be on iTunes. I finally figured out a way to do it that isn't incredibly painful and or not particularly practical, so we're going to be on there very shortly. I cannot give a date, but it will be before Menaphos soon. So yeah.
Oh, come on.
no, seriously, it'll probably be a week or so, and then we'll hopefully be on iTunes, and then you can it'll auto update when we do our stuff. But yeah, so thanks to everyone for watching, thanks to the JMods for coming on, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.